This video corresponds with section 5B.3, and this video will teach you how to find and construct a perpendicular line for the purpose of finding an altitude within a triangle. Now you'll notice we talked about perpendicular lines earlier in terms of perpendicular bisectors, and there was a specific location they had to be, not only again cutting the line at 90 degrees, but having to cut it exactly in half. When you're messing with altitudes, not every altitude cuts a side in half perfectly, okay? Sometimes an altitude could be shifted one way or the other. The key thing about it is that it has to meet the side at 90 degrees. So what I'm going to show you here is how do we just construct a perpendicular line without worrying if it cuts another line in half. So I'm going to walk through this first example here on page 4 of your notes. Now, the one thing I will say about this, line of this is pretty small. If you haven't done so, and you're just following along for the first time, you might want to take this and extend it. Again, a line goes infinitely forever, but it might be helpful to take this line, so line it up, and you'll see why in a minute here. It might be helpful to extend that line a little bit further. So if you haven't done that, take a second and do that before you move on with the construction. So in order to do the construction, so we're looking at this point right here would be essentially the vertex of an altitude. I know there's no triangle here, but that's essentially the purpose of this. It's a random point that we need to get perpendicular to the given line. Now, the way that you're going to do this is you're going to go ahead and put your compass, put the point on the point itself. All right. Now, the key thing is you need to have your compass wide enough. So there isn't a specific width, but it needs to be wide enough so that you can swing an arc through both sides of the line. Or I guess I should say swing it through twice. So you should be able to go above it and back underneath in this case. If it's too small and it doesn't cross through the line in two spots, you're going to need to try it again. So let's go ahead, put our point of the compass here. We're going to go ahead and swing an arc through. There we go. So there's our arc. It has to cross through both of those points, or on both sides, if you will, going above it and then going below it. Now, once you have this, you're actually going to use steps that are kind of similar to the perpendicular bisector in that you need to get two other arcs that overlap each other. That'll give you a frame of reference to make sure you can have a perpendicular line. So it's similar in that respect, and you'll see with the markings here in just a moment. Your points of reference are right here, where the arc intercepts the line. So what you want to make sure of is you're going to go put your compass point on one of the interceptions. Make sure your compass is at least half as wide as the arc. If it's not going to work. You'll see why here, because you need the arcs that we're going to draw here to intersect each other. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up. Draw arc number 1. I'm going to go to the opposite side. Keep your compass width the same as normal. Go to the opposite intercepting point. You got to get two arcs to intersect, just like that. So it's similar in that regard to the perpendicular bisector. It's just that we're not bisecting anything. We're not cutting anything directly in half. Your final step, take your straight edge. If this is done correctly, when you line up your ruler, you have your two intercepting points with the two intercepted arcs. What you also will see is that it should go through the point that you're given. So we're going to line everything up. And there we have a perpendicular line. So what you will use this for is when we are dealing with altitudes, because again, an altitude doesn't necessarily have to meet a line and cutting an opposing line in half. It has to meet it at a 90-degree angle. So we need a slightly different method in order to construct it. This is exactly how you'll go about it. So you'll use this when you go find the altitudes in the next set of examples.